Hey guys, it's Sarah, and today I'm going to be sharing my least favorite products from my favorite brands. This is a topic I've seen going around a lot lately. I think it was started by Amy Loves Makeup, so I will link her video down below, and I've seen a few other people do it as well, so I'll link as many as I can find in the description box. But I have identified 7 brands that I feel like are among my favorites, and I'm mainly basing that off of the number of products I own from them. These are some of my go-to brands, and so I'm going to be sharing the worst products I've tried from each one. 4 of them are drugstore brands and 3 of them are high-end. So let's go ahead and get started with the drugstore. First brand is e.l.f. e.l.f. is undoubtedly one of my favorite makeup brands. I love so many products from them. I love how affordable they are, but there are a few products I've tried from them that I haven't loved. The one that stands out to me is their 16-hour Camo Concealer. I have this in the shade Light Peach, and one problem I will say is that this shade is too light for me, so that could affect my opinion of it, but not only that, it's really just not my favorite kind of texture for concealer. I think this is a good concealer if you like a really, really high coverage matte concealer. I just prefer something a little bit more hydrating, and so this one I don't find myself reaching for a whole lot, but sometimes I am in the mood for that really, really high level of coverage. Since the shade is so light, I typically like to apply this before foundation so that it hopefully will blend into my skin a little bit better than if I put it over foundation. But among all the e.l.f. products I've tried and that I currently have in my collection, this is not my favorite. Now, I did actually just purchase their Hydrating Camo Concealer, finally. I had been wanting to try that for the longest time, and I finally just bit the bullet and bought it the other day when I was at Target. And I have to say, I've only tried it a couple times so far, but I'm really liking that one. Very impressed. I have a video on my Instagram and my TikTok of like trying it on for the first time if you do want to see that one, but anyway, that's not what this video is about. We're talking about least favorite products, but just thought I would add that in because I like that one a lot more than this one. The next drugstore brand is Covergirl, and I love Covergirl. I'm so happy that they are cruelty-free now, and it's just so nice having another really reliable, accessible option at the drugstore. I have liked a lot of the things that I've tried from Covergirl, but one product that really just did not impress me at all is their Lashblast Amplify Primer. I still have the packaging of this. I have it in like my pile of makeup empties that need to be sent off to be recycled. But the reason why this is my least favorite product from Covergirl is that it just didn't do anything. It was just a useless, pointless waste of money. Once I even did a comparison where I had this on one eye and not on the other underneath my mascara, and it made pretty much no difference. I actually kind of liked the non-primer side even better. So all around a not very helpful or useful product, and it was just one more time-consuming step in my routine that was just not needed. The next drugstore brand is Milani. I do love Milani. I think they have a lot of amazing products. They're a little bit more expensive than some of the other drugstore brands, but I feel like they have really beautiful packaging, and they definitely catch my attention with a lot of their products. One product that I really did have high hopes for and it just did not do it for me was their Conceal Perfect Longwear Concealer. I still have this and I'll use it. It's not the worst concealer in the world, but it just didn't have the coverage that I expected based on the description. It has pretty average coverage, but it also just looks kind of dry on my under eyes, and like I said, I just kind of prefer something a little bit more hydrating, so this one really did miss the mark for me, and I have loved a lot of things I've tried from Milani, just not this. Alright, the last of my favorite drugstore brands is NYX. I really like NYX as a brand. I feel like they've kind of fallen off a little bit over the last several years. They used to be a lot more popular. I still love the brand. I think they have a lot of great products. I think they for the most part do a really good job with their shade ranges. My least favorite product though from them is their Born to Glow foundation. I go back and forth on this. I did enjoy this in the summer last year, but I just don't feel like it's a very reliable foundation. I have some foundations that I can put on and I just know they're gonna look good no matter what kind of skin day I'm having, but with this one, some days it looks amazing, some days it looks terrible on my skin. So I'm gonna kind of reserve this as my summer foundation when my skin is a little bit more oily. Again, it just doesn't really live up to the claim. They call this a naturally radiant foundation, and the name Born to Glow made me think it was gonna be a really glowy, hydrating formula, and it's really not very glowy. It's a little bit on the satin side, just not what I was expecting. However, I have heard that people with oily skin really like this because it does look a little bit more radiant on oily skin without like completely breaking down. So you might love this if you have a different skin type than me, but personally with my dry skin, doesn't always work well for me. So getting into my 3 high-end brands. So I don't own nearly as much high-end makeup as I do drugstore, but I do have 3 high-end brands that I would consider to be some of my favorite brands, or at least a lot of my favorite products come from these brands. The first one is actually Aether Beauty. I have amassed a pretty sizable collection of Aether Beauty products. I have received a couple of PR packages from them, and of all the things I've tried from them, I honestly really like most of the stuff I've tried. The one that I'm just not as in love with as the others is their Amethyst palette. This I did receive in PR, and the quality of this is beautiful, nothing wrong with it at all, but it's more so the color story that I'm just not in love with. I'm not a big purple fan, and the palette does lean kind of deep for me. I tend to gravitate towards palettes that have more lighter shades than deeper shades, but that's just my own personal preference. I do think it's nice that they have a deeper leaning palette because their Rose Quartz palette that I love is very light and airy and dusty, whereas you might prefer deeper shades on your skin tone. So I'm not saying it's a bad product per se, but of the Aether products that I have, this is just the one that doesn't stand out quite as well to me. The next brand is Urban Decay, and my least favorite product from them I actually have already decluttered. I decluttered it in my last eyeshadow palette declutter that I can link if you missed it, but it is the Naked Honey palette, and I feel like this is a pretty unpopular opinion because I know a lot of people loved that palette, and there really was nothing wrong with the quality. When I bought that palette, I was really excited about the color story. I was excited to do some kind of yellowy mustard looks, but for some reason all the looks that I did with it just kind of ended up pulling really orangey bronze on my eyes, which I don't always mind, but that just, I don't need a palette that's dedicated to those kinds of orangey colors. And on top of that, I felt like there were several shades in the palette that overlapped that I felt like there could have been some more interesting shades in there, and they just ended up having like 2 kind of similar bronzy colors, a few similar like matte mid-toned warm browns, and that's why I ended up decluttering it. It just didn't speak to me. Whenever I saw it, I didn't feel excited to use it. I know a lot of people love that one. It just really wasn't my favorite. I thought I was gonna love it, and I really didn't. The last brand is Anastasia Beverly Hills. I will say I used to love this brand a lot more than I do now, although I still own a lot of things from them, and I love a lot of the things that I have from them, especially their eyeshadow palettes. And I decided to go with one of their palettes. I know I've been talking a lot about their eye primer in recent videos. I don't love this eye primer, and this is definitely one of my least favorite products from the brand, but I wanted to go ahead and pick one of my palettes from them because I do own 5 ABH palettes. That is the brand that I own the most palettes from, and my least favorite of their palettes is definitely the Modern Renaissance palette. This used to be my favorite palette ever, and I think I've kind of just moved on from the color story. I couldn't bring myself to declutter this in my last declutter video though. I couldn't do it yet. I do have a little bit of sentimental attachment to this palette, and I have created some really beautiful looks with it. I think it's beautiful for Valentine's Day. I'll probably pull it out either on Valentine's Day or around Valentine's Day because I'm doing a lot of like soft pink looks. Exhibit A. I still do like this palette, it's just not my favorite, and honestly, if it expired or if I lost it, I probably would not buy it again. And I think for me another strike against it is that it is mostly matte. There really are only 2 shimmers and 1 kind of satin in here, and then the rest are matte, and I just love shimmer shadows, and so it just doesn't pop out at me as something I'm super excited to use all the time. But that being said, I do still like the palette. It's just my least favorite. So those are my least favorite products from all of my favorite brands, or at least the brands that I feel like I have tried a lot from. And hopefully this was helpful and gave you an idea of which products you might want to stay away from if you have similar preferences to mine. But you might have also learned about products that you would love, even though I don't like them, because maybe we have opposite taste in makeup. But that is it for today's video. I hope to see you again soon. I upload every Tuesday and Saturday, and hopefully I will talk to you in my next one. Bye.